What's going on, YouTube? Alex here, and today I'm with Dylan again, and we are going to talk about recycling capital. This is a kind of a follow-up to the last video we did, and we're going to talk about how you can use hard money and not have to necessarily come out of pocket if you find a good deal. So Dylan, I am going to need your help when it comes to comms, so make sure you're ready when we go back to that part.
Gotcha. And I'm excited. I don't know a ton about this, so this is going to be a good learning opportunity for me as well.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to start from a blank Word doc, believe it or not. There is a little formula to this, and we'll kind of go over this as we go. Dylan, you can see my, is it the Word doc screen?
Yes.
Okay. And so I call this recycling capital because the idea is taking your money and using as little as possible of it to put it into an investment and pull it back out. So it's kind of like recycling, right? Where you can't recycle it 100%, but you can usually get as much as possible with it. But basically the premise of this, and there's a few key things that we need to think of. Most hard money lenders will lend up to a value of 70 to 75%. I like to use 75% as a key number, and the reason being because us on the long-term lending side, we also use 75% for investment refinances. There's a couple different terms you're going to need to know, and first we're going to have the purchase price of the property. We're going to need the estimated rehab or repair needed for the property. We're also going to need the ARV. Dylan, you know what ARV is?
After repair value.
There we go. After repair value. Sweet. So those are the ones we need, and we're going to make sure we always remember of this 75% key factor. Now, let's say we're taking a look at a property. I'm going to use some easy numbers. Let's say the property is selling for $135,000, right? Let me paste this here and do this. So let's say the offer is at $135,000. Let's say on this property, it needs some work, but it's not too much work. And let's say it needs about $20,000 worth of repair and rehab. We'll have to probably do another video. We should get a contractor on so we can go over repair and rehab stuff. I think that's one we need to put.
That'd be awesome.
And then we're going to say, let's say Dylan, your realtor, runs comps, and he said, hey, once you're done and the property's completed, it's worth $200,000. All right, so now we're going to take our key variable of 75%, and we're going to start with the ARV and work backwards. So our ARV is $200,000, and we're going to take 75% of that, which is 200 times 0.75 is $150,000. What does that mean? That means if you do a refinance on this property, us as a long-term lender, we can only offer you up to 75% for one unit on a rehab. Anything over that, you come out of pocket. And the other thing is kind of like I mentioned, if you use a hard money lender, they can usually do up to 75% as well. And this is why I like hard money lenders. At $150,000, and we'll go over that in a second. So it's $150,000. Now what we want to do is we have $20,000 in rehab. So now we're going to take our $150,000 and we're going to subtract the $20K in rehab, and that equals 130. This actually just might work out by luck. So this means this is probably the purchase price that I should offer on it, right? To reduce the amount I can purchase on. And this is why. The hard money lender, if they do lend you up to 75%, they base their value on this after repair value. And they don't need a down payment if it's under 75%. So that means that they can lend you, in this case, anything $150,000 or less with zero out of pocket, but you will have some closing costs. You know, the average closing cost on a property like this with points to them and all that stuff is probably like $6 grand. Let's do $7 grand to be on the high side. And so now the hard money lender will loan you the full purchase price. So you just took control of this property for $7,000.
Gotcha. Wait, could I ask a clarifying question? So is that pretty typical across the board that hard money lenders will loan out to 75% of what the after repair value is, and then would that usually be the investor coming to them with the after repair value, or will will they double check it, or is it kind of what they think?
So, couple variables. When it comes to hard money lenders, they can kind of do whatever they want. But what I've seen is that they will either do an appraisal, a desktop appraisal, which is where they'll get an appraiser to just do one from the computer without a physical appraisal. Or if the hard money lender knows the area very well and they feel comfortable about it, they don't need to do an appraisal and they'll just let you roll. So there is some type of appraisal / value consideration, right?
Okay.
And it will be off of a completed project because they're assuming that you're going to do work to these properties. The other question was the 70-75%. So yes, I think it's typical to see 70-75%. Most will always do 70%. Some will do 75%. And I've actually also have seen some do 10% down regardless of the value, right?
Okay.
So they'll just do 10% down across the board, or with a traditional lender, you're doing 20% down. So
gotcha.
It depends on the hard money lender, but it's not too hard to find one to do 70. You might need to do some digging to do 75. I know a really good one. So you can always reach out and let me know.
Cool.
That's a good benefit because we can run those scenarios if that hard money lender doesn't, do the 75, and we can do it other ones.
Okay.
But with that being said, the purchase price is covered. The hard money lenders will also do what's called draws. Are you familiar with draws, Dylan?
Vaguely, but you can explain more.
Yeah. So let's say you're $20,000 in rehab, right? You can do it in 2 phases. Phase 1 is about $10,000. And now what you can do is you can go back to the hard money lender. You're going to give him receipts and pictures of proof that it's completed. And then what the hard money lender will do, they will go out, they will do an inspection of it to verify all of it's done, and they will reimburse you as long as you are still under the 75% of the completed project, right? So now,
gotcha.
$10,000, get that reimbursed. Now you can finish phase 2 and do that part of the $10,000. And now instead of coming out of pocket $20,000, you really came out of pocket $10,000 twice, and you got reimbursed both times. So now you still have that money. You haven't necessarily spent it. And so now you've done your loan will be the purchase price plus the rehab. And so if you purchased it at 130, you'd be at 150. Now, if you purchased it at 135, they will go up to 150, and then you're just out of pocket an additional $5,000 on top of the closing cost.
Gotcha.
Your new loan amount right now is probably about 150,000 is where you're at. So you're done and you're completed. What you're going to do is you're going to call someone like me to do the long-term lending. When we go to do the long-term lending, what number do we do? Do you remember what I said? What number we can lend on?
Was it 75%?
Exactly. And let's say let's say you say, hey, Alex, this property I want to do a refinance on. I think it's worth $200,000 and my loan's $150,000. And I'm going to say, okay, great. Dylan, I can do 75% of that. And so 75% of 200,000 just happens to be 150,000. I can cover your whole loan, but you're going to have to cover the closing costs. And so the closing costs will probably be like $6,000 for this property, for this one. I'm usually a little cheaper than hard money lender. But it's usually even less actually because you do title twice and title gives you a discount on the title policy. So, so now what we're going to do though is we're going to need to do an appraisal as well. And as long as your appraisal comes in at that $200,000 or more, we can cover that loan and you only pay closing costs. So your total out of pocket, how much do you think the total out of pocket was on this deal?
Would it be 12,000?
And how'd you get that number?
So closing costs from the hard money loan, and then closing costs from the refinance. Absolutely. And the only other thing I'm thinking of is payments to the hard money lender during the rehab process, right?
Yeah, so you will have monthly payments to hard money lenders, and it's interest only. So they don't bill on the principal. And so they're usually pretty close to what your payment is. Personally,
Okay.
I don't calculate that. Those are an expense, but if you were to buy that property anyways with the loan, you were going to be making those monthly payments regardless. So
Gotcha. So that's more like holding costs.
yeah, it's holding costs. It's like if we calculated taxes in this, right? We knew it was going to be there, so there's no point.
Gotcha.
There's no way around it, right? What we're doing showing here is you're coming out of pocket 12 grand, right?
Uh-huh.
To basically buy a property, rehab it, and turn around and now you're left at 12. Now you did have an additional 10 here that you did have in your bank account. So in your account, right, total needed for this project, I would say is 10 grand that you did rehab on phases, 12 grand in actual outlay costs. Plus, I would say you should probably have an extra at least 5 to 10 grand in reserves, right?
Uh-huh.
So to do a project like this, what is that? 10 plus 12 plus 5 is about $27,000.
Uh-huh.
So now, yep.
So I was going to say that doesn't sound like an unreasonable amount to end up with a property that's worth $200,000 at the end. You need 27 to start. That's not too bad.
Well, the thing you got to remember is this too. You've got one that was fully rehabbed and repaired, which you did. Plus, you have 50 grand in equity on the property. So,
Pretty sweet.
that's how a lot of my investors are turning around property quick, and they're recycling it. And I call it recycling because, let's say if you were to do a traditional loan. Well, one, you can't buy a house that needs a ton of work. We're running into that scenario now. That's because there's possibilities where the appraisal won't go, the lender won't do it, or there's permitting issues. So you're probably going to have to buy something that's outdated and that's been on the market for a little while. And so when you buy something that's outdated, that means the work is a lot less. So the cost is going to be much closer to the ARV. But let's say you bought this same property. Let's say this exact property. Let's say this property was for sale for 150 with almost no rehab, and it was worth 200 at $150,000, right? So let's say this property was 150K with no work needed. You'd still need 20% plus closing. So 150 times 0.2. So that's still 30 grand in down payment plus the 5 grand in closing costs above to do the loan. So, you're at 35 grand to purchase this property and you didn't do any updating or any work. Well, here, there was some work needed, but it's way cheaper. It's way out of pocket. Now, this is hard to find these type of deals, but they are out there. And most of them are off market because they can't sell them. They need to, on the MLS. There are some MLS, but they'll be listed as cash only. So you do want to get with your realtor like Dylan and say, hey, Dylan, find properties that aren't accepting financing and see what's available out there. But that was a pretty quick.
Yeah, and I see them all the time. They go quick though, because I think people are doing the same exact strategy we're talking about. So you need to really, if you're looking on the MLS, you need to keep your eyes open, and when you see one pop up, be ready to go right away.
Absolutely. Do you have any questions on this stuff, Dylan?
No, this makes sense to me. I think I understand the concept. Should we do like a real life example, or what do you want? What do you think?
Yeah, we can definitely. That's what I was about to say. Let's see if we can find one. We got lucky the last one. Let's see if we get lucky and find one on the market. I think that's going to be difficult. The one thing I do want to say though, and I want to preface, the biggest thing that breaks these deals are rehab, because you weren't estimating correctly. You weren't allowing or accounting for the amount of time it needs to do the rehab, and ARV value, getting a comp correct and accurate. A ton of investors get blown up here where they assume it's worth 220, but it comes in at 185. And these are this rehab and repair is completely in control of you as the investor, right? Whether you're doing the work or you're vetting your contractors, or if you don't have a vetted contractor, you source a vetted contractor by reaching out to other investors, is what you can control. You can't control permitting. That's out of your control. But this is, I tell a lot of investors, like, If your project's going long and you're getting eat up on holding costs, that's on you. You got to do your research. Now your ARV,
Uh-huh.
that's a completely third party, right? That's a appraiser who no one has any control over. But what you can do to mitigate it is you work really closely with a strong realtor who can run comps. Because if you don't have a good realtor who can run your comps and get you as close as possible or know about how to do an after repair value, and they only know how to do just generic comps, it's not pretty. Um, that's why I got Dylan here to help me. So
Exactly.
let's see if we can find something. Here, let me go ahead and pull up a random window for Zillow. And Dylan, if you want to get ready and see if you can maybe run some quick comps.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's go and look at I'm gonna talk about a market that I think that was hot and people are sleeping on, but it's far from Houston.
Uh-huh.
Waco, Texas. Have you ever considered going to Waco?
I've driven through there. That's about it.
I feel if you can get a property that's like this. Properties here are going for 160 to 180, but they can't be manufactured, and that's the tricky part. This one doesn't look manufactured, but this is expensive. So I'm looking for 3 beds. I can do any bathrooms. Here, 110, 3 bed, 1 bath. This definitely needs some work. Shit's rough. Have you ever ran comps in there?
Would something like that be what you're looking for, like something in that bad of condition, or would you want something a little better?
I think it doesn't matter. I think what matters is the numbers will work. Now,
Okay.
of course, the less amount of work that's needed, the lower your risk, but the harder it is to find those, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, like I know one investor, him and his wife, they only do fire properties. They will only touch properties that have been on fire because they know it like the back of their hand, right? They won't touch flood. They won't touch minor stuff. They'll only do fire. They specialize in fire, and everyone around the community knows, hey, those are the fire people, right? You got something that was burnt, give it to them. You know, you gotta, you know, the biggest thing is knowing your numbers. But like this one, I mean, this is 125. This sat on the market 220. I'd make it. This is perfect for making a good offer on. So here, Dylan, you want to try running comps on this one?
Yeah, 308 Spring Street, Waco. Okay.
Now the problem is I can't see inside of this thing, but I'm gonna assume it's pretty dated, and I'm gonna throw a number of. I mean, it's not that big. I'm gonna throw a number of 35 grand for rehab. This is kind of a bad example because we can't see inside. But I'm just going to assume it needs, you know, you're going to totally redo the interior and you're going to do some minor stuff outside to make it look prettier. And while you're doing that, I'm going to look at some. See, oh, and it might not even work. This was 130. This one's completely done too. No, the reason I kind of brought this up, these things rent for like $1,400. Which is nuts.
Yeah, I'm looking. So I'm using Zillow because I don't have my MLS out in Waco. It looks like you want the after repair value, right?
Yeah. Well, if you're not okay, let's redo it. Let's just go back to Houston. Let's go back to Houston if you don't have MLS. I forgot about that. For some reason, I thought it was a full state.
No, it's just like greater Houston area, but
here.
And yeah, so that deal, because I just saw one that was after repair kind of like 180. So that might not have been the best deal anyway.
Look at this. This is nuts. I think this is wrong. This is $97,000 in Missouri City. I know this area.
It says it's a townhome?
No, this is a house.
I thought it just said townhome. Maybe I'm wrong.
This
townhome.
For your first home. Oh, it says it's a townhome. But it just
I think it's two attached and you're buying one half. Because I've seen some of these like this in Missouri City in that area, Southwest Houston. Yeah, it's attached to one other building, I think. Although it's kind of hard to tell.
It is. I can't see.
But I've been tricked before where I thought I was looking at a single family that was really cheap, and I went out and then it was attached to a different unit that wasn't for sale.
Do you want to, here, we can do Google. I think we need to see the roof. Oh yeah, right. No, this is separate.
Let me see.
Oh, it's just barely, oh, it's in a row. It's in a row. Yeah, it's a townhome. That's cheap though.
I mean, our townhomes, do we necessarily disqualify townhomes, or is that okay?
No, not at all. You want to try the comps on this?
Yeah. So you're looking for after repair or like the purchase price?
We'd want the after repair value comp. So basically what it would be worth when it's completed.
Okay.
So when you're looking, you'd want to look inside and make sure that the properties are all, pretty inside.
Yeah, rehabbed out. Let me see. So we want to be looking at townhomes, right? As comparables because
yes,
it is attached. So that's going to be a big factor. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the nice thing about having the MLS is that it is really easy to see pending and sold quickly, where on Zillow it's a little trickier to see them all together. Let's see.
If it's more than 160, 165, I think this deal will work. I just don't know.
There's a whole bunch of townhomes. This one looks decent, and it ended up selling for, let me see, 115.
Ooh.
So that's not going to be great.
No, it's not. Here we go. 100.
Here's a townhome. Here. Oh, here's one that is like completely. Yeah, this one is 150. Very similar, but like completely redone.
How long ago did that sell?
Let me see. Sold for 155 on February 26th.
So, let me see if I can find that property again.
Well, even if so the one I was just looking at sold was 14922 Trinity Meadow, and it's nearby, but the area looks a little bit nicer too. So
okay, let's go to houses. This is going to be really hard. I'm going to be shocked if we find one. This is usually
we could always find one that if it doesn't work, and then we could just see how it plays out, like how much out of pocket we would end up spending.
Yeah, let's do this one. I feel like this one has ability to do some offers on 1500.
Yes.
Bathurst.
And I've seen that one. Multiple people have pointed that one out to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Why did nobody want to move on it?
I might actually be going and checking out that one with an investor early next week if it's still there. Bathurst. Okay. Oh, I'm on townhome still. I was like, why can I not find anything? Okay. All right. So this one is, I'm just looking at what part of town this is exactly in. So Central Southwest, right off the tollway. Okay. So we're going to run some comps, and what we're going to do is look at, when I'm running quick comps, the easiest way to see them just fast is looking at recently sold, with comparable square footage and beds and baths. So let's look at single family in this area. Oh, wait, you can't see my screen, I realized. Does that matter?
Do you want to share?
I can share. This isn't like me doing, these might not be the most accurate comps because I'm doing them pretty quickly, but I can share my screen and just kind of say like, hey, when I'm just going quick, here's what I do. So if I'm just trying to do some quick comps, so we can look at all the different pending and then sold single family in the area. So we'll zoom in on this map feature. So this is on the MLS, but you can do something similar on Zillow and some other websites. So you're going to scroll into Central Southwest, and it was right around Fuquay and Buffalo Speedway, right around here. So let's look at some. Let's change our criteria. So was that you said that was a 3-bed, 2-bath?
3-bed, 2-bath, 1247 square feet.
Okay, there's enough comps that we can just kind of put very similar properties in. You said how many square feet? 1,200. Okay, let's put. I'm just gonna do 1,000. What was it?
1247.
1247. Okay, I'll do like 1,000 to 15 as a range. So let's go back into our map. If this will load for me. There we go. Nope. One more time. Okay, I'm gonna try refreshing. See, you're getting this alive. Let's make sure my criteria is good. I'll do it one more time. So we look at pending. We're gonna look at square foot. I'll leave the square feet off. Let's do bath. Beds 3, 2. And take a look at the map. So over here we have 190. Let's just take a look. 203. 249.
Oh, that was a little newer.
That's a lot bigger. Looking bigger. Okay.
That's
This one's similar square feet. Let's see if this is a similar.
That's a little newer.
Similar size.
But yeah, similar.
Completely remodeled.
Well,
we can see that this one's sold.
Just painted.
This one sold for last December for 216,000. So that one's pretty close. This one's. I'm trying to look for, and I like to look for ones that are like as close to the neighborhood as possible and like similar style. I think it was actually down here more. So let's look. This one is. This one's pretty similar.
Yeah, that's.
Yep, and they.
Definitely a good one. And this one's not even remodeled. Wow.
Not even remodeled all the way, and it's going for. It sold for 188 in November. Now the market's appreciated a little bit since then. Let's see, we have this one's a little bigger, but it's not,
these aren't even
it's not super nice. No, this one went for, let's look. This one went for 211 a few days ago, last week.
Wow, why has this one been on the market forever? Huh.
There may be something actually wrong with this one. This one went for 162, but it looks like it has some issues.
That's very comparable too, if it was remodeled. I mean, so I'm thinking this is like 190.
I think 190 is like, that seems fair. That seems like just doing this quickly. Let's look at this one. This one's very similar too, a little bit bigger. This one's not even remodeled, and it sold for 198.
Oh, wow.
And okay, so on this one, are we doing a full remodel? Would that be the plan?
Yes, that's what I would say. So let's say if it's fully remodeled, what, 205? You think would be fair?
Yeah, let's say 205 to be safe.
All right, so let me do this. All right, so let's do a new page. So here's the first property. The current purchase price is 135. The ARV, the rehab. I'm thinking on this rehab repair, it's not very big, but I'm just gonna say it's about 40 grand for a full remodel inside, right? So now let's do some math. Do you remember how to do this formula?
After repair value times 75, was that what we were doing? 0.75?
Yep.
Something like that.
That is that right? Wait, 205. There we go.
Oh, and then before we move on, I'd like to emphasize that like when I'm doing comps like that, usually it's, if you're actually going to purchase this, it probably won't be that quick, because you don't know. There could be something different about that property, that maybe there's foundation issues or something else that you don't know about just from doing that quick search. But that's like a good way to estimate if like this would even be worth your time considering.
Exactly. And see, the thing is, what we want to do, and that's a perfect point, is what we want to do is we want to figure this out quick, because a lot of investors that I've talked with or work with, they sleep on deals, they miss deals, is because they're too busy analyzing. When you need to just throw the numbers together, is this a possibility? Yes. Hey, Dylan, let's go look at this house. Right. And can you run the comps, and then let's schedule something. And Dylan's going to say, hey, tomorrow at 3 is available. You say, okay, great. Can you bring comps? He'll be like, he'll have time to get the correct comps together. You can get out there and maybe start sending out your pictures to a good contractor and say, hey man, just throw a number together for me, right? What do you think it would take if we wanted to do a remodel on this? And then go out and physically see it, right? And that's how you can keep the process moving, because in the market of deals constantly moving, if you can't figure out in the next, like, for the minute you see it and figure out numbers and in the next day or two and determine whether or not to make an offer on it, when you get there, you're just going to miss out. You just will. It happens all the time. But let's say if it's 153,750 and we've got 40 grand in rehab, this is why it's sitting. You'd have to purchase this property at 113,750. It's too much. But if you think about it, at 200 days, an extra 10, 15 grand off might not be bad. Or if you really wanted to, you could still purchase this with hard money and still get the deal done. You just come out of pocket. What's that difference? 21,000. Right? So that, which, whoops, when I do that. So versus if you were to pay it by yourself, one, I don't think you'd have a hard time getting a loan for this. I mean, the 20% down with the regular, like with me, is 27,000. You're still better off going the hard money route and doing this. As much as I'd love to do your loan, I'd rather just wait a couple months till you do it and do it the right way with you, right? So I mean, there is an ability to find these properties. I mean, so this deal essentially is 130. How do we do this? I think it's 135 divided by 205. It's no, it's 135 plus 40. That's 175 all in. Now you divide it by 205. This is an 85% deal at 135. You need to be at a 75, so it's 10% high, right? Which 205 times.
Would you still be able to get a loan on it? Would you just have to come up with the extra amount out of pocket, or would like a hard money lender just not loan on something like this?
They will. They'll, as long as you put out of pocket on it, right?
Okay.
They have their risk
because it could still. Yeah, because it could still work, right? If the rental numbers work. That's like another thing we were talking about. You got to look at the rental comps too. If that works, then maybe, and your cash on cash return is still good, maybe it is actually worthwhile. So that's like kind of right. That would be like the second numbers to look at.
So yeah, on the first video, right, was showing that you can buy stuff just straight. This video is showing that recycling. So there is a way to reduce the amount. But most investors sit in this middle of trying to maximize the least out of pocket. But it also going to depend on the type of investor you are, right? For the investor who maybe purchase one property every couple of years and just wants to take it out of the stock market or whatever, just buying something and as long as the rental numbers work, like we were doing the other last show, is perfectly acceptable. For the investor who is moving fast and trying to do this full time and flip some and rent some, you're going to need to find close to 70 to 75% as possible. But for your average investor who's maybe going to buy one a year, two a year, right, where they're buying at a decent pace but not buying extremely fast, like 6, 7, 8 a year, everybody falls in between. And it depends on market conditions, right? Market right now is pretty difficult. Everybody's around 80, 90% deals. That doesn't mean they're bad deals. It just means that you've got to understand when to use the tool and when not. Because there are times where sometimes it's easier, like especially on bigger purchases, sometimes it's easier just to go with a straight loan and just do the rehab out of pocket than it is to do a hard money loan, right? I see the hard money loans is great under the $200,000, $250,000 price point. But when you start getting bigger, you really, really need to do the math on it because it can get expensive quick. Because your holding costs also are pretty high. It's these smaller ones, it's not a big deal, but for some reason, when the numbers start turning into $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 price point, the hard money is a little harder to swallow. But if you
Uh-huh.
rehab money out, then it's worth it. I guess that's another point. If your rehab is high, more than $10,000, more than $15,000, depending on the purchase price, then yes, probably hard money's the best bet.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. It's now just going out there and practicing. One thing I do want to say is that you do, one way to practice is going to Facebook. So here's a Facebook group I'm in, investment group. They'll give you the numbers. Not that they're accurate. These are almost never accurate. Please keep in mind. But this is a good way to start calculating and figuring out. All right, I've got $890,000, ARV. They say it's 130 grand. They want 610, and for some reason the numbers always work, right? 0.5 minus 129, but even this one doesn't work. This is over.
Even that's
70 grand over.
That's too high, right?
Wait.
You would have to purchase at 5 something, right, to make that one work.
Yep, you'd have to be 609 minus 70. You'd be at 539, right? Is where this would, if the numbers are accurate. And this is why it's always good to get a good picture, get pictures of the interior, and really just get a good feel. It's the only way you're really gonna to learn how to do this stuff quickly. So here's another one right here, right? This one's in Michigan. Oh no, that's ugly. I can't believe they're listing that. Newly renovated, but I can use.
Yeah, let me see if I can find an old wholesale like deal that was sent to me or something.
Yeah, wholesale.
Because I get some to my email all the time.
Right here. Here's one right here. This is 100.
Oh, you got one? Okay.
Grand. Let's go look at the photos. It wants 155 for this. Oh, these are. Where's the pic? Like, actually, let me start maybe from the bottom. So this is these are the comps he's using. Ooh, it's a 2.
You want me to share one? I just pulled one up.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, you got one.
Here, let me see what you have. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is like some wholesale deal that I got sent to my inbox. So it says Crosby Flip. They have an ARV of 210 and an asking price of 130. Let me see if they don't give the rehab amount. I guess that's the difference. So we don't know exactly how much.
Look for pictures.
Let's see what we can find. So this was one I just got to my inbox recently. How do I see the next picture? I just gotta go back.
Hit the arrow.
We need some interior shots.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. That needs a lot of work.
It looks scary. Okay, that one's a little better.
Let's see.
I think you can hit that arrow right there on the right when you open it. Yeah,
this one.
Yeah, both of them.
Oh, the picture of myself was blocking it, so I was like, "There's no arrows." Okay. It's not horrible.
It's dated. Why did you take a picture of the toilet like that and your fingers in the way?
Yeah, they're not doing themselves any favors with the pictures. I mean, it's not that bad, but not great.
That's like 50, 60 grand. Because outside.
So let's even put that in. You want to estimate that? So ARV, like asking 130, ARV is 210, and let's say it's 50.
Yeah, you want me to do it? You want to pull up a calculator?
I'll pull up a calculator. Let's see.
All right.
We can still see my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, so after repairs 210, so we do 210. I'll just do the full thing. 210 minus, and we said 50,000, right?
No, you got to do it times 75 first.
75 first. Okay.
Yeah, always take the 75% off first.
Okay, 210,000 times 0.7. Okay, this is how much they'll loan on. Okay. Whoops. Okay. One more time. 210, and see we're getting some practice in times 0.75, 157.5. And then you need to subtract the 50 grand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
50 grand for rehab costs. 107,500 would be what you need to purchase this to make it so you can get all your money. Like you wouldn't have any money into the deal, right?
Pretty much recycled. Yep. And so even this one's a little bit high, but the thing is it's still doable. It's still doable, the down payment. And again, the biggest thing here is the fact that it has high rehab. And the good news is you don't need $50,000 in your bank account to rehab it. You probably just need like 15, because then you'll get reimbursements on the draw with the hard money. So the amount of cash you need, the amount to purchase, the amount of cash you need to rehab, the amount of cash you need in reserves is reduced significantly. And for the record, I am not a hard money lender, right? I do not do hard money. I don't do private money. I don't do any of that stuff. I strictly do long-term lending. This is great for flips. I know a guy who's done 5 or 6 flips just using it. And so, it's a little harder because you've got 6 months or 12 months to complete it and hurry up and flip it. But I mean, it's all doable, and it just, it's just knowing the numbers at the end of the day.
And I think a big thing, because Alex, the way you described it, you made it very simple with the calculations. And so then at that point, I think seems like the two big things are like, it's a numbers game. So just analyzing as many deals as you can see to find one that's going to work. And then number 2, having a really good way to estimate rehab costs. So that's probably like, so having a realtor who can do comps, and then maybe having a contractor on your team who can give you quick rehab costs, even just rough estimates. So that when you're doing your calculations, you have an idea.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's it. And again, that kills every deal. Like I see the deals all the time. The appraisal comes in short because they were thinking it was worth too much. The rehab, right, takes forever to get done. And that's the problem. They estimated $15,000, but it's costing them $35,000, and that's going to kill you. So like for me, I always throw high numbers because I'd rather be safe than sorry. I rather would be, and then determine whether that coming out of pocket is worth the risk, right? Knowing I have, right? Like when I quote, if I'm running rental numbers on interest rate, I'm always going to run high, because especially in a rising rate market, everything that goes below is just extra cash flow for me. But if the numbers work high, they will work low, right? It's pretty cool.
So to do this, you're going to need to be able to like analyze a lot of deals, and then have people either know how to do comps and rehab estimates, or like have people on your team who can. And so there are a lot of things you need to do. You either need to have a lot of knowledge, or know good people, or meet good people, and analyze a lot of deals. But if you can do those things, like the amount of wealth you can build, because all these, what did we say? They end up having 20% equity, right? That's where we're going, or 25%. So you're building, you're at the end of it, you're getting a rental that probably cash flows and then has so much equity in it as well. So you do this 4 or 5 times, you're set up.
It's really nice, and it gets addicting, right? Once you get real good at it and you found your niche, So one thing I would say, if you want to get started, join some Facebook groups, get with Dylan or me, and get a good idea of an area in a neighborhood, right? Like we said on the last show, know a neighborhood, know an area that you feel like comfortable in, right? And you can't, some people like to say, I want this area. I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather just get a good, just start looking, start running numbers, and then all of a sudden an area will stick out to you. Like I didn't pick Missouri City as an area I know really well because it's like down the road for me, right? I just know that area because when I'm running numbers, it just seems like it's getting slept on. I just always find stuff there. The same thing with Sunnyside, the same thing with Waco. But see, the other investors I talk to, they're like, oh, I'm up in Baytown. Oh, I'm looking at Edo. Oh, I'm looking at this ward, that ward, Tree Gardens. I was like, can't find anything out there for me personally, but this is where I'm seeing things. And so, finding an area I think is really important, so you know your stuff. Again, getting good with a good realtor, like you said, in the contractor, so you can get those numbers. And then again, don't be afraid to ask, that's why we're here. This is what we do full time. So you can email us, call us, text us, and say, hey, I don't get how that worked. Hey, I ran numbers on this. Can you just double check it? Or, hey, I'm thinking about buying this. Will the numbers work? This is we've done in this whole show, probably 6, 7, 8 of these things. And it seems complicated at first, and it's good to know, but at the same time, you can always leverage us. That's why we do this.
Exactly.
But no, I think that's probably a good overview of recycling capital, and also this lets us know we need to get a contractor to talk about rehab costs.
Uh,
But yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about, Dylan, before we wrap it up?
no, I guess that's about it. I guess should we just say, tell everyone where they can find us or where they can find more info?
Yeah, where can I find you, Dylan?
So you can email me at Dylan.eldred at exprealty.com. And I need to catch your email. That's what I've decided. But also, if I could do a plug for my meetup that Alex has actually spoken at before, we meet the last Wednesday of every month. It's in kind of Montrose area of Houston. So if you send me an email, I can give you more info about that. But basically, we always have a guest speaker and then talk about a different aspect of real estate, and you can network with other investors. And there are definitely a lot of people who are into this like rehab, recycle capital strategy. So you can definitely meet people there as well.
Cool. And you guys know where to catch me, alexdoesloans.com. I guess we'll get together on the next show and see what other investment stuff we can come up with.
Yeah. See
Cool.
y'all then.
See you guys.